So in this video, we are going to kind of finish up the model of our building. We're going to add in our foundation as well as our structural components and our floor. So let's in Revit open up our file if you don't already have it open. And then we're going to go into our level 0 floor plan, which is going to be by just double clicking in our project browser to open up level 0. Now in here, we'll notice that none of those dimensions that lock our grid into place have transferred over into here. We could place them again, but you'll see when you click on any of the grid that those constraints still apply, even though we only locked it in level 1. What I'm going to do to start my foundation is I'm going to draw some foundation walls from level. I'm just going around that core face interior from A1 all the way around, similar to what we did last time. But we're going to run into a little bit of a snag when we go to do that, unless I fixed it, but I don't think I did. So when I go into the wall tool, which is keyword shortcut WA or the wall button in your architecture tab, and I go to change my wall type to P01 foundation 12-inch CMU, we'll see that it gives us an automatic base offset of -12 feet. And if I try to give it a base offset of nothing, and then say, please go up to level 1, it's actually going to yell at me. It's going to say, we can't do that. And that's from a new Revit update. So what we're going to need to do is go edit the type for this foundation wall. And we need to change its function, even though it is our foundation, we need to change its function to something else. So if I make it an exterior wall, even though it's not, it'll now let me use this wall function properly. And so I can make it start at level 0 and go up to level 1. For my location line, I'm going to do core face interior again. And I'm going to go from A1 to A5, and I'm going to get a warning that says none of the creative elements are visible in this view. So we need to adjust our view settings. So I'm going to hit escape a bunch of times, and I'm going to go edit my view range, which is either keyword shortcut VR, or in your properties panel, if you scroll about halfway through it in the middle, you have under the extents options, you have your view range here. So 2 ways to get to it. So our problem essentially is that our cut plane is sitting too low underneath it. So we want to put our cut plane at just positive 1 foot instead of negative. And then our bottom, let's leave our bottom at -2. That seems good. That seems like it'll work for us. So when I hit apply, we'll see that that wall I created is now actually there. But if I click OK, if you didn't place this wall yet, that's fine. I can start over. So I'm going to go back into the wall tool, and I would go from A1 to A5. If you had already placed the wall, you can just start here and just keep chugging along. And I'm just going to trace around. And then for my foundation underneath my stairwell, I'll do it in a similar fashion where I'll just start it somewhere and I'll go over. I'll hit escape a bunch of times, and then I'll place some dimensions here to situate this wall. So that's going to be a dimension from grid A to the exterior face of this foundation is 12'1". From grid 3 to the exterior face, and then grid 5 to the exterior face. So I'm going to start the dimension tool, which is keyword shortcut DI, from grid A to the face, click out to place it. From grid 5 to the face, I'll click up to place it. Grid 3, click on the face, click up to place, and then I'll hit escape a bunch of times. And then to read these dimensions, this is going to be 1 foot 7.5. This will be 2 foot 7.5, and this is 12'1". So I'll click on this wall to adjust this number to 12'1". I'm going to click on this wall to adjust this number 2'7.5". And then I'll click on this wall to adjust this number to 1'7.5". Next, I'm going to put a footing underneath all of my foundation walls. So that's going to be keyboard shortcut FT, or in the structure tab, this button here. And we want it to be 36 inches by 12, which it already is, so that's good news. And I can just click on all my foundation walls to put a footing underneath them. And then next we'll put in some concrete pads here. So these are going to be isolated pieces of footing, and they'll get put in a little bit differently. So that's in the structure tab. We have this isolated button. When we click on it though, oh, never mind, I loaded it in. We click on it though, we see this rectangular footing, but it's not the right size we want. We want it to be 4 foot by 4 foot and then 12 inches deep. So I'm going to change its size by clicking on, whoops, let me Control Z. I'm going to edit type, duplicate it first, so I can rename it so I know what it is later on if I have to use it again. So I named it 48 by 48 by 12, and then I'm going to change its thickness to 1 foot, width of 4 foot, length of 4 foot. Okay, and I'm going to put one at the center of each of these grid marks on grid B. Then I'll hit escape 700 times. And now I'll put in some structural columns that are going to go from, let's look at them in section to see their height. There we go. So they're going to go from my level 0 up to level 3, and then we'll adjust their height once we finish putting in our structural system here. So I'm going to create a column, which is keyboard shortcut CL, or this button here under the structure tab. For my column type, I'm going to use the pipe 6 standard. And it's not really going to let us place a top and bottom constraint too much yet, but let's see. This depth, we'll change depth to height, and we'll say go up to level 3, and then I'll place one at the center of each of these. And then let's go look 3-dimensionally for a moment. And so now we have these pipes, or these columns, going up to level 3 from level 0 underneath. So then I'm going to hit escape 100 times, and we'll start with our floors. So let's save our work by just clicking on the save here. And we'll go into our level 1 floor plan, and we'll start creating our level 1 floor. So our level 1 floor is going to go again from our face of stud all around, including our bathroom here. But then we also have these kind of cutouts coming around, or these pads that are sitting in front of all of our curtain walls that are coming out 8 feet over here and then 12 feet over here. So to start my floor, I'm going to use the floor tool, which is back in the architecture tab. Doesn't have a keyboard shortcut, but it's this button here. And you may remember when we go into floor, it kind of blocks everything out. And instead of using like pick walls, what I'm going to do instead is I'm just going to use the line tool to just draw a line from where A1 intersects all the way down to A5, down to my intersection at C5, back over, and then back up. Now for my for my floor here, sorry, couldn't think of words for a second. I'm going to just start, let's see if I can get me, there we go, on that core face. And notice how I'm not worried too much about it being perfect. I'm gonna go up, over, because I could always use a line to fix it, and then straight down. And then I'll start where my foundation, or rather where these pads are going outside my curtain walls. I'll click at that intersection and I'm going to go down 8 feet, to the right 14 feet, and then I'll go back up, down 8 feet, over 14, and I'll come back up, down 8 feet, over 14, and I'll come back up, and then over here, I'll click where that intersection is, over 12 feet, up 14 feet, and then down. Now I can't hit my green check just yet because it has to be one whole connected loop, and it very much isn't. We have overlaps here on each of these pads, and we also have overlaps here in our stairwell. So what I need to do to fix that is I need to use my split tool as well as my trim tool in there. So to split is going to be keyboard shortcut SL, maybe SP? Yes, SL. SL, and then my cursor is going to turn into a little knife, and then I'm just going to cut somewhere inside this stairwell to cut it. Then I'm going to use my trim to corner tool, which is keyboard shortcut TR, and I'm going to click on this side, so not over here, but I'll click on this side to this piece, and we'll see that it kind of cleans that up. Again, I'm going to click on this wall and this wall, and it'll clean that up. So we'll also need to split inside each of these curtain walls. So again, that's keyboard shortcut SL, click to cut it. I'll cut this one, and this one, and then I'll use trim to corner, which is keyboard shortcut TR, to click on this side and this smaller side and here, this side and here. So I'm just clicking on each side that I want to keep to then trim them to the corner. So I'm just taking this and making it smaller. Click on this side and this, here and here, here and here. So it has to all be one closed loop. I can also check on my walls up here with a line. So I can use keyboard shortcut AL to click on the face of stud, which this one I believe is already on. This one I might have missed a little bit. I think I got that one. I think actually I might have gotten all of them. Yeah, because that's my face of stud. But I can even then check that it's going on that face. And I also want to check my floor type. I almost made it the wrong floor type. So for our level 1, we want P01 concrete slab. And then in my modify floor boundary area up here at the top, I'm going to make sure I hit this green check. If everything is all one connected loop, then I wouldn't get any warning for it. If I get this prompt that asked if I want to attach walls to the top, I'm going to click on don't attach. And then I'm going to go into level 2 to create my floor there. So my level 2 floor is going to be made out of a different material, but we also need to put in our like partial height knee wall here for it as well. So I need to put that wall in first. Now that wall, if we go look at it in section, is starting 4 feet underneath level 2 and then only goes up 4 feet for it. So back in Revit, I'm going to double click on my level 2 floor plan. We have an underlay from level 1 in here by default. Let's go ahead and turn that off. So that's over here in my properties panel for level 2. I'm going to set that underlay to none. And then I'm going to create a wall, which is keyword shortcut WA. For my wall type, I want this interior 7.5 partition, 7.5 inch partition, excuse me. Base constraint will be level 2 with a base offset of -4 feet. Top constraint, I'm going to say unconnected with an unconnected height of 8 feet. Because we're counting the 4 feet that we're starting underneath, we need an unconnected height of 8. And then I'm just going to whack it across the building somewhere underneath grid line B for it. Once I have it placed, I'll hit escape 100 times. And then I'll go to my level 2 floor plan again. I'm going to place a dimension. I could either go from grid B to the face of stud or from the center of this window to the face of stud. So I'm going to start a dimension from middle of window to the face, or I could also do from B to the face and then click out to place it. Hit escape 100 times. And then we can click on this wall and you can change either of these. So if you did to the window, it would be 7, I believe it was 1 inch and a quarter. I know it's 7 and 7 inches and a quarter, isn't it? Oops. Yeah, so it's 7 and 7 and a quarter from the window, or 1 foot 1 and a quarter if you did from the grid line. If you place both of them, they'll both update for you automatically. But that'll just give us something to reference when we go to make our floor here. So for this floor, we'll do it slightly differently. So I'm going to start the floor command, which again is in the architecture tab. I'll click on floor and everything then else gets grayed out. I have to do this floor. I'll use pick walls, which it does by default. And I'll do this half wall. Then I'll click on this one, this guy, and all of my stair ones as well. So this has still left me in the predicament of it's not one closed loop, but I can easily make it into a closed loop using that trim tool. So that's going to be keyboard shortcut TR. And I can click on the sides I want to keep and it'll clean up that corner. Click on the sides I want to keep. Now up here, what I'm going to have to do before I trim is I'm going to have to split it. So that's keyboard shortcut SL, click on it, and then keyboard shortcut TR for trim. Click on this side because you want to keep this side of it to here, this side to here. And then I'll hit escape a bunch of times. Now, if your lines happen to be on the outside, you can also use this arrow here just to flip to like the inside of the core, which is what we want to be on for it. I'll hit escape 100 times, and then for my wall, or rather, excuse me, my floor here on my level 2, we're going to do a P01 3-inch lightweight concrete on 2-inch metal deck. And then I'll click the green check. And when it asks me this, we can click yes if we want. That'll make our section view a little bit easier to clean up. I'm going to click no just to show what happens, but I would, if I were you, I would click yes. But again, I'm going to click no. We're going to go to level 3. And in level 3, again, we have an underlay of level 2 hanging out in here, which we don't want to see. So we're going to change our underlay and turn it off. So I'm going to set my underlay to none here in my properties panel. And then we have a few floors we're going to place because we're actually also going to make our roof here. So the first thing I'm going to do is just a floor for our level 3. So I'm going to create a floor system by clicking on floor. I'll use this same floor type, and then I'm just going to go to all 4 of these walls here And I don't even have to do any like cleaning up. I could just hit my green check. And again, I would click yes here. So I'll click yes so I can show in the section view the difference between the two. And then let me hit escape 100 billion times. And then we're going to make another 2 floors, but they were going to act as our roofs here. So we're going to create a floor. For our floor type, for our roofs, we're going to use this P01 6-inch insulation on 2-inch metal deck. And I'll use the pick wall tool, and I can even hover over one and hit tab and then click to get all 4 of these. Or I could, instead of using tab, I could just click on all of them. And we do want them going to the inside face of that core. And then we'll hit our green check. Again, I would click yes here. And then the final one we're going to do is one more floor. So I'll hit escape a couple of times. I'm going to click on floor in the architecture tab. And I'm going to create a floor type of P01 6-inch insulation on 2-inch metal deck. My level is going to be level 5. And I'm going to give it a height offset of -1 foot. And I'm going to do that inside my stairwell here. So I want it going to the interior core face. And then I'll hit my green check. And when it asks me this question, I'm going to click don't attach, because remember I offset that floor 1 foot down. It's asking if I want these walls to go 1 foot down along with it. So I'm going to click on don't attach. But then I will click yes to this question. If I go look at 3D real quick, we'll notice that this wall is peeking out. So I'm going to click on this wall here. Then I'm going to click on attach top, and then I'll click on this roof piece, and it'll bring that wall down to where that roof is. Now, if at any time we want to see inside of our building, we can't because of the fact that we have a roof on it now. So what we can do then is, let me hit escape 100 times, is in our properties panel for our 3D view, we can check off this section box. So if I check off section box, this box will pop up now, and I can click on that box, and I can move that section box to slice my building open this way, or I can also use this top arrow. Let me click on the box, and I can drag this top arrow down to slice it open in that direction as well. So we can still slice it open to look at our building internally. Next, we'll do our beam systems, which we can see in our framing plan here. So we have these K-bar joists that are going across. They're spaced 4 feet on center. So these are kind of some web trusses that are in there. And then we also have a steel beam going across as well. And we have these, if we look in a section view, we can see it a little bit better. So we have them just underneath our level 2 area, because this is all exposed down to below. And then we also have 2 sets up here on level 3. So what we're going to do for that is a beam system. So I'm going to go into my level 2 floor plan. And we'll want to offset this beam system down the thickness of our floor. And if you're ever unsure of what something's thickness might be, we can try to select just the floor. And by that, it might be a little tricky to do in this view, but what I can try to do is like tab my way around, or I could go into my 3D view, I can slice my building open, and then I can click on the floor, and I can see that it has a thickness of 5 inches. So in my level 2 floor plan, I'm going to start a beam system which is either in the structure tab, and then it's this button here, or it's keyword shortcut BS. And for our beam system, we want our spacing to be fixed distance with a fixed spacing of 4 feet instead of 6 feet. We want, instead of this wide flange beam, we're going to switch it to the K series bar joist web 14K6. And we're going to do an elevation from level -5 inches. So -0 space 5. And then I'm going to use the rectangle option here. So I'm going to click on rectangle, and I'm going to go from A1 to B5. Before I hit the green check, I also want to change my beam direction. So that's right here. We have beam direction. And then I'm going to click on one of these two smaller vertical lines. Lastly, before I hit my green check, I'm going to, for this tag new members, I'm going to click on none. And then I'll click my green check. And it's going to look like nothing happened. But when I go look at it 3-dimensionally and I orbit around, I have now a beam system hanging out underneath there. I'm going to do a similar process on level 3. So I'll go to my level 3 floor plan. In the structure tab, I'll either click on beam system or keyboard shortcut BS. For my elevation off of level, I believe I'm going to hit the green or the X just to check it, but I believe we're going to be 7.5. So you know I was wrong. It's 8.25 is our thickness here. So then I'll start a beam system with an elevation negative offset of -0 foot, 8.25 inch. I'll leave my layout as fixed with a spacing of 4. It already remembered everything else I set. And then I'll use rectangle from A1 to B5. And then I'm going to check my beam direction to one of these smaller vertical lines. And I'll hit the check. I'll hit escape 100 times. Another beam system, all the same settings from B1. Whoops, forgot to click rectangle. From B1 to C5, beam direction. Click on one of these smaller vertical lines, because otherwise by default it would run the beams this way. And so then I'll hit my green check. I'll go into my 3D view, and now I have those beams hanging out underneath there. Before I move these down, we're also going to put in our wide flange beam in there that's hanging out underneath them. So those are also going to just run across grid line B, but we need to figure out offset wise how far down they're going to sit. So to figure that out, we'll go into one of our building sections. We can either go into section 1 or section 2. It's not going to matter too much. Actually, just kidding, pranked you. Go into section 2. And I need to figure out what is it from very top to essentially the bottom of this joist here. So to do that, I'm just going to use my quick measure tool, which is in your little keyboard, or excuse me, your shortcut keys up here, this one with the ruler. And I'm going to measure from top straight down, and it's 10.75. So for the beam that I'm going to have run across grid B, I'm going to offset it down -10.75. So I'm going to go into level 3. I'm going to start just a beam, which is keyword shortcut BM, or this button here in your structure tab. We'll keep our beam as this wide flange and this size here, but we want to give it a Z offset value of -0 feet, 10 3/4. And then we're going to go from B1 over to B5. And it's just warning me that none of those elements were created in this view. But if I go look in my 3D view, that's where she is. And in level 2, let's go into my section 2 view again. I'm going to use that measure tool to measure what I have here. So I'll click on this measure between two references from top straight down. Can't read that number. Boop. Says 7.5. There we go. So that's what I'm going to do, a negative offset there. So I'll go into my level 2. I'm going to also create another beam here. So that's this button in the structure tab, or keyboard shortcut BM. And then I'll give it a Z offset of -7.5 inches. So -0 foot, 7.5 inches from B1 all the way over to B5. And it's warning that none of those elements were created in this view. Last thing then that I'm going to do in this video is just move these columns down. So right now they go all the way up to level 3. I want them to go and be kind of attached to the bottom of this beam. So I could do that a couple of ways, but again, I think the easiest way would be to have a section box turned on in your 3D view. Click on that box and kind of cut your building open until you can at least see all 3 of those beams. And then if I click on one, oops, I double clicked on it. If you ever double click on it, you could just X out of that and just say, no, I don't want to make changes. If I click on one and then right click, and I could say, select all instances in my project. And that way it'll select all 3 of them at once. Then I'll click on attach top to base, and then I'll click on this beam. And it'll bring them down so that they sit on that beam in there. And that's going to be the structural components of this project. So make sure you go ahead and click save. Or you could do save as and save it as part 2. And then in the next video, we will go over stairs and components and a little bit of annotation, I believe.